Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of War Thunder. As you can probably tell, I am in a simulator battle on the War Thunder ground forces. But this isn't the ordinary sim battles, this is the new version they brought out for a little while during the events where there's no HUD basically. You'd think this is really for the hardcore players, but it seems to have been popular with nearly everyone. Seems to have been a very popular game mode, and I can see because it is a lot more historical and realistic, because you got the realisticness of a usual stim battle, but they then plonked you into the battle with no markers for friendlies, no HUDs for your tanks particularly, no markers for enemy tanks, enemy planes, friendly aircraft. Basically you have to be extremely careful not to get friendly fire your own tanks and stuff. In the first time I did it, nearly did friendly fire a bunch of tanks because I was on the Russian team, but I had just been in about 5 matches with the Germans, so the first time I saw T-34, nearly blew him up. I saw that guy. I had to zoom in. It was a M13 machine gun carrier, self-propelled anti-aircraft gun, but couldn't tell, so I had to zoom in, which obviously costs a bit of time. The guy who was shooting at flew over there and exploded because he shot him down, thankfully. But it's definitely a very hard match, or hard game mode. Although you can do very well if you're careful. I did quite well in this match. I got 4 kills. Now I've sped it up quite a little bit because there are a lot of the match was a long time and there's a lot of parts where nothing much happens. Unfortunately, as you can probably see, you'll see it in a sec. It's gone now, but when you go to the main gun of the M3 Grunt, you can see it now, it doesn't turn the aiming recital sight, forgotten the word for it, which, it does turn during the gameplay, but on the replay, it doesn't seem to have worked for some reason. Now, like I said, I'm in the M3 Grunt, which means I've got a coaxial machine gun type turret on the top, and a 75 and a 37mm gun. Now, I usually rely on the 75mm gun, but the 37mm can be quite handy sometimes. You can see here I've just taken a load of damage while I'm talking. Shooting it out with an M3, Marder 3, and another Panzer. I think it's a Panzer 4. Now, I took quite a bit of damage, and I think I was actually repairing at this point. Can't quite remember. We've just been trying to zero in on each other, and it took a long time. Not an awful lot happened for a while. I did get some hits on the Marder, so then I sort of turned my fire towards the Panzer, which still could fire at me. The Marder is repairing, he's not dead, so, I still have to worry about him in a minute, but obviously while he's not shooting at me, I went for the other guy. And you can see here, some of these hits, some of these were hitting, I think, they were hitting like the suspension and the tracks, but, it's the same with ordinary, realistic and simulator, it is a lot harder to aim. Now, the Marder finally got his gun back up, took one shot which wounded my driver, and then I finally knocked him out. You see at the bottom of the screen, destroyed by myself. I got an assist as well, I don't know if that was for the Stuka that crashed earlier. Can't quite remember. Oh, I've got a bit of a cold. Trying to shoot this Panzer over in the tree line. And one shot completely exploded. Some of the awards are a bit glitched, I think. Shadow Strikes Streak 2. I could be wrong, but I think that's for getting kills without being hit, and I was hit a lot of the time. Yeah, you can see here I couldn't aim, it's not showing up where I was aiming, but it doesn't particularly matter because I got like one hit on them and then they completely obliterated me. You can see there I damaged his track, so if he hasn't got the parts modification, he's a bit screwed. If he has, he'll just be out of the battle for a little bit. But, so 2 kills in my first life, and I came back in another Sherman, M3 Lee. Off back to the battlefield. Which, I've sped it up a little bit. It's not actually, it doesn't actually take that long, it doesn't feel like it's that long when watching it, but during the actual game, it felt like I was there for like an hour or something. Some of the tense moments, you don't really feel the don't really feel the same moods and stuff when you're just watching a replay. But that feeling that death can just come out of anywhere, like your friends can't warn you unless it's through chat, and even then they're only telling you map grids. Like you can't. It's not like you have to manually check every nook and cranny. You can't just rely on looking in the general area and then popping up on the map. But I finally tracked down the Panzer. Possibly, I think that may be the same Panzer IV who just killed me. I can't quite remember. I have to check. I'll probably put in the annotation if it is. But getting another bit of a shootout. I think I got a hit on him there. It doesn't say what damage I did, so if I did, which is unfortunate. Now again, I'm sort of relying on the 75mm gun. If I can, I do try to alternate between the 75 and the 37. Because with the 37mm, you're quite a bit higher than most tanks. If you're at point blank range, you can probably put a shot through the roof, or a bit of in some of the areas that are less armoured than the areas the 75mm would probably hit. I've tried switching the views to get a better view, but yeah, it still didn't turn properly. So we're just all trying to get this guy, and he's shooting at me. I think someone else has started shooting at me. I'm not entirely sure, but sort of trying to find out where they are, because they seem to have gone missing at the moment. So I'm just sort of tracking them down, which I believe I did track them down. You'll see in a sec. Started firing in the general area just to see if they'd, pop up and try and shoot me. And I spotted this tank. I don't know if it was the same one I was shooting at or the other one that just shot me a minute ago. But should see, gone to my big gun. And he got my. I thought I was going to get one shot there, but turns out I didn't. He's injured my driver and gunner and all that, but I've managed to one-shot him, so yeah, pretty good. Or possibly not one-shot him. No, it wasn't a one-shot. I thought for some reason, I'm trying to do this on Movie Maker. It's a bit hard to read some of the signs that come up, or rewards. So at this point, I'm just repairing, because he did quite a bit of damage to me, I think. So I'm just repairing, scanning the tree line to make sure there's no other enemy targets. Remember, I've speeded a lot of this up, so it was actually, I would have been there a lot longer than I actually was, what it looks like, so we'll just wait for it to get repaired while enemy tanks are around. But I started off and saw this guy, who didn't seem to be aware that he was being shot at, from what I can see. But started machine gunning them, because they've got an open compartment, and the armour's not particularly great. I think the 50 caliber machine guns have like 27mm penetration at 100 metres, so there was a good chance of me being able to get through any armour they had. But I managed to get them, another one shot, I think, or possibly. No, it wasn't a one shot, but yeah, it was pretty easy to kill them, but then that's to be expected. As you can see from the player list, there aren't many Germans left. There's a lot of Americans, not many Germans. And some of them are possibly in aircraft, can't quite remember. It was a bit unfair for the Germans, because they all had Panzer IVs and Panzer IIIs, and then we've got M4 Shermans and M3 Lees. Now I started being shot at by another tank, and you can't see. This is one of the other problems about having the markers. Things like fog become a lot worse. They actually, prevent you from seeing them, which, you wouldn't usually get into normal battles, because there'd just be a huge red marker over their head. And I'm trying to get in close range to him, but the terrain started loading up. I don't know why it didn't load up at first. Maybe it's a graphics setting I've left it on, but you would have thought it would have just loaded up or not loaded up, not wait until I'm within like 50 metres and then just pop up. But this guy started doing a ton of damage to me. I don't know if I panicked or something, but I just made a beeline straight for the forest or trees, and just trying to make my way to the town where I thought, I'd be a bit more hidden. But I either lost sight of him, or he decided I wasn't worth the effort to kill, because he stopped attacking me, or he stopped shooting at me. And you can see at this point my 37mm gun isn't turning. The gunner is dead, and there are no other crewmen to replace him. My 75mm is still up, thankfully, but the 37mm obviously would have been a lot of help. And, you know, I'm just battered and bruised by now, and it ended up turning in a bit like that film Sahara from the 1940s. It was an old propaganda film, I think, but with an M3 Lee. There was an M3 Lee in that, and they were basically in this situation, trying to escape from overwhelming odds in a barely functional tank. Well no, theirs was actually functional. They had guns and crew members. Mine's in a worse position. I'm just trying to desperately batter down these fences and walls to get into this sort of sheltered area. And again, remember, this is sped up. This is taking, you know, a lot longer than what you're seeing in the video. So I'm just repairing. I've got my 75mm gun. I could barely turn it because I'd left it in a bit of a weird position. Just so worried that, you know, a tank was going to come past and get me. You could probably see from the bit at the bottom, there isn't much time left, and you'll see how I die. I started getting shot from the side. I didn't see that guy, and he wounded my loader and the gunner, so I started making a beeline for more cover. And again, I started panicking, making mistakes. I wasn't going to be able to achieve much more, because the tank's just so badly battered and damaged. It must have more holes than a bloody cheese grater. It was just... things were going bad, but we started capturing A, and we obviously outnumbered the enemy quite badly. I wasn't actually sure if we did it or not at the time, because I couldn't check the scoreboards, but any second now, heading towards that fire, and just so I get hit, yeah. I checked every corner except to the right, which basically gave, not sure which Panzer it was. It was a Panzer IV F2, a brilliant shot at the back of my turret, and he took the shot, and you know, he did good. Like I said, we won that match. I quit before we won it because I didn't want to stick around for the whole thing, but yeah, our guy hid under the bridge, and so he couldn't be got out by enemy aircraft, and any tanks that came near him were presumably obliterated. There weren't many Germans left by this point, so they weren't going to win anyway. But yeah, that's basically a quick little glimpse into the world of the Sim Battles Hardcore Edition, that's what I'll call it from now on. I'm not actually sure what the proper name is for the Sim Battle event. Now, we've got the scoreboard here. You can see I came joint second with about 2 other people, so I did pretty good. I died more than one of the other guys, so I say he should probably... yeah, one of the other guys got 4 kills, 2 assists and 1 death. I say he should have come second, and me and the other guy joined third, but because it's by points, I must have got points for injuring somebody else. Germans, I don't think anyone got more than 4 kills, so I did pretty good in that match. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll try and get some more matches like this in this new game mode. I hope they make it a more permanent game mode, or at least a more regular game mode. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you liked the video, subscribe if you like these sorts of videos. Leave feedback, could always do with more feedback. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.